So I want to not clarify, but to make even more clear something that I was pointing out in my last video concerning a word. A word in Luke 21 where it says, in verse 32, "Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass away till all be fulfilled. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my word shall not pass away." So the word "this" in this generation shall not pass away till all be fulfilled. All right. Everybody assumes that that word means that and that generation and that generation only. When in this context it is written that he who reads Daniel understand. Okay? As I pointed out in Daniel 9, it talks about two generations. Generation of the 62 sevens and the generation of the 7 sevens. The generation of when Messiah was cut off and the generation that of Messiah the Prince. Okay? So let's look up the word "this." And I also pointed this out in my last video in text. You can go look at it for yourself there as well. I'm trying to get Strong's Concordance here. What is wrong with this thing? All right. This app is not cooperating very well. All right. The word "this" in Luke 21:32, where it says, "This generation shall not pass away until all be fulfilled." It is 3778 in the Greek, "hutos." Essentially does mean this. Let's dig a little deeper. When we go to NASB translation, it also means afterward. Oh, you mean this generation and an afterward generation? See, folks, this is what I mean by digging deep. Don't assume anything. Don't assume anything. So, yes, it can mean two generations, you see. And if people will only just dig a little deeper, they would find out that translations are not exactly as they think they are. So when you do read Luke 21, and verse 32, you see clearly there are two generations here. One generation is the generation that cut off Messiah. That is from Luke 21 verses 20 through 24. And then here comes another generation, because you see, it says right here in the verse 24, until the times of the Gentiles come to an end. And so another generation is from verse 25 through verse 28. And when I said about the previous generation, that's they fell by the edge of the sword and were taken captive into all nations. Jerusalem was trodden of the Gentiles, and then that continued, the dispersion continued until the time the Gentiles come to the full. Okay. But then another generation comes where there's forgiveness, where there's redemption, where there's reconciliation, talked about in Daniel the prophet. And he says, and when you see these things come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draws near. That is the last generation, the remnant in whom Jehovah shall call, as written in the last verse of Joel 2. So when you read verse 29, it says, and he spoke to them a parable, behold, a fig tree on all its leaves. When they now shoot forth, and you shall see and know of yourselves that summer is nigh at hand. So likewise, when you shall see these things come to pass, know you that the kingdom of Jehovah is near at hand. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass away till all be fulfilled. There's two generations, a this generation and an afterward generation. That's proven. If you look in the Strong's Concordance, the word hutos, you will see that it's a fact. And what happens when you assume? We all know the term, right? What the word assume does to people. Make sure you know the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Anything else is unacceptable.